will remain meaningless while lives will continue to be lost. Over the years, you've successfully created the illusion that you are bolstering the ranks of the police with more members, when the truth is that there has been a net loss of 20,000 police officers over the last 10 years. You need only read the SAP's annual reports, which reveal that there were 199,000 personnel at the end of 2012, 182,000 at the end of 2021, and 178,000 by the end of this financial year, including your new recruits. And while we have many excellent police officers who go above and beyond the call of duty under the most difficult circumstances, they are being outnumbered by the unfit, poorly trained, and corrupt cadres. What SAPS needs is to promote merit within its ranks, not cadres, and ensure that all appointments are beyond reproach if we have any hope in reversing the decline. South Africans want results, Mr. President, not more broken promises. And this is what they will vote for in 2024, a party that delivers results. In Parliament last year, you committed to investigating the Western Cape government's LEAP community safety model after acknowledging its success. Well, now is the time for you to act in order to keep your promise to keep our communities safe by throwing your full support and the fiscus at a tried and tested policing model with proven results. When LEAP was launched in Philippi East in 2022, that station has now completely fallen off the list of top 30 contact crime stations in South Africa. Over a 12-month period, Gugulethu noted a 30.6% decrease in murder. Delft has seen a 17.4% decrease in murder, with contact crime also coming down. These are the results, Mr. President. These are the actual results that should follow from a promise. This is the kind of leadership that we deserve to build a safer South Africa for all of us. This is how you get things done, Mr. President. You make a promise and then you keep it. We don't need more hollow words and broken promises from an empty suit at your next SONA. We need results. And you can start by firing your minister. I thank you.
I thank you, Honorable Member. Thank you. The Minister of Home, Human Settlements.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, presiding officers, cabinet colleagues, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Honorable Whitfield, it is important to acknowledge that indeed there are issues that we need to deal with in fighting crime and corruption in the country. But it is untrue not to acknowledge that there's been men who've been trained and passed out in recent months as part of ensuring that there's police visibility on the ground. Many of us who understand the importance of fighting crime would understand the presence of visibility and police visibility to make sure that people do feel safe. Mo President wa rena, boikemo bjo bogolo bja rena go sa kgathalege gore re mohlobo mang goba re mmala ofe. Goba karolo efe ka gare ga naga ya rena. Go tshwanetse gore re tsebane gore ka nnete bodulo ba rena gore humanega re dula ga botse le ka boiketlo. Ka bona boikemo bo le karolwanang ya rena e leng gona ka ra masoma mabedi le botshelela ya molaotheo wa Afrika Borwa ye e tlhatlhago melawana ya tsa mengwako ya mmušo wa Afrika Borwa. Re ikemišeditše go bea batlhoki le batsofadi ka pele mo lelanong la kabo ya rena ya mengwako ya mmušo. Tsalelo morago ya mengwakana ke e kgolo. Eupša re tshepiša gore kabelo e tla dirwa ka lebelo. Batho ba borena ke kgale ba letile mengwako ya bona, eupša ba bang setse ba hweditše mengwako ya bona. Ke ka moo re re mmušo wa rena o mekamekana le ditlhotlho tse di leng gona gore re kgone gore re fetišetse le gore di swanetše gore batho ba rona ba be le tsona. Ba bantši ba bona ba dutše ka tshepo, ba lebeletše rena gore re tle re kgone go ba thuša, ba tle ba humane ditshebeletso tse le gore ba di tshwanetše. I think we can all draw inspiration from the words of Michelle Obama, who said, "You may not always have a comfortable life, and you will not always be able to solve all of the world's problems at once, but don't underestimate the importance you can have, because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take a life of its own, but more importantly, it can be able to ensure that people look forward to tomorrow." Furthermore, I quote Martin Luther King, who said, I unquote, "300 years of humiliation, abuse, deprivation cannot be expected to find voice in whisper," unquote. Housing for the missing middle remains a serious challenge. A revised First Home Finance Scheme, formerly known as Help Me Buy a House program, was revised in the past financial year, amongst others, to allow for funding for households who hold permission to occupy certificates in communal land. This is particularly important to the relation to the extent of credit and funding to households in rural communities. This will allow the missing middle to start acquiring economic assets without which they struggle to meaningfully participate in the economy. Honorable Malema, yesterday, Mr. President said to you that it is irresponsible for a man to be at the top and do nothing. I totally agree with him. However, he got it wrong. You are not a man on top who's doing nothing. Under your leadership, sir, this is what you have done. We have acquired buildings in the inner city areas, such as Sea Point, Cape Town, listen, and 2 Eskom buildings located Braamfontein, Johannesburg, Kimberley, for social housing purposes. For this development has potential to release 1,200 units for families. These are efforts, honorable members, to building an inclusive society and cities through our social housing program. It is meant to alter the apartheid spatial planning, and this has gained momentum. In the coming weeks, Mr. President, we will be launching a number of social housing projects that have taken place under your leadership, and these are the following. Tshwane Maraba has produced 1,200 units, and this has been driven by Black-owned companies, and 60% of them are women-owned, as part of our commitment to transformation. Motlhakeng project, with a total number of 1,020 units in the West Rand in Gauteng, another transformational achievement. Hope City project, 1,114 units in Nkangala municipality in Mpumalanga, 100% owned Black people and 30% women owned. John Street project, which has 385 units, located in Nelson Mandela Bay municipality, and 63% of them are Black owned and 30% women. Maitland here in the city of Cape Town is not a project, it's national government driven, which a total of 204 units that will be completed by the end of March. This is what, President, has been happening under your leadership. Honorable Steenhuisen yesterday, Mr. President, said to you instead that instead of leading us to cross the Rubicon at SONA, the President has told us to turn around. I'm glad, Mr. President, that you didn't follow what Honorable Steenhuisen Rubicon was taking you to, if indeed it would have been a disaster for the majority of the working class and the poor who remain and who mainly we represent as the African National Congress and have their hopes and dreams in your hands. And this is why, Mr. President, it is because our attempts to integrate the poor and working class into urban communities have faced serious backlash and resistance. I'm speaking here, Mr. President, of a group in the urban reach that we call Not in My Neighborhood. Honorable Nkondlo spoke about. It is a challenge for us, led mainly, majority of the time in the wards, by DA councillors. These are well-resourced groups whose sole purpose is to ensure that the poor and the working class families remains in the outskirts of the cities. This group is motivated by mixture of racism and disdain for the poor and the working class. They regard the poor in the cities as refugees who must be rounded up and shipped back to the rural areas. Every time our government acquires land for human settlements, honorable members, for these families, this group stands up to say very loudly, not in our neighborhood. They utilize all sorts of tricks to resist, including courts, which causes delays in these families to receive shelter. The only crime these people, poor working class communities and families have committed to receive this abominable treatment is that they are the descendant of the victims of apartheid and were born without any means. All freedom-loving South Africans, both black, white, colored, Indian, all races, all classes, needs to stand up against these bullies. Honorable members, title deeds in the hands of an elderly woman who has never owned a property in their lives means the world to them. It is for this reason this government decided to fast-track the release of title deeds as an important instrument of economic empowerment. Working together with Operation Vulindlela, we will be able to expand this. We've started with unlocking the projects in Gauteng, especially in Mawika, where it will give us 14,000 title deeds in that area. Land redistribution is important as part of our work. We are working together with DPWI, as President has said, to release earmarked 14,000 hectares of land. Currently, we have 2,689 hectares of this land in the hands of human settlements, which will be able to give us more than 64,000 housing opportunities planned as part of release of land to ensure that there shall be houses, security, and comfort, as the Freedom Charter has said. Honorable members, we have 2,700 informal settlements in the country and counting. Out of this, we have already started working with 1,284 informal settlement upgrading at various stages. What does this mean? This means that we are able to provide water, electricity, sanitation, and security of tenure in these informal settlements. And we are currently working to ensure that we upgrade them. They are at various stages across the country, and we are intensifying this work. We will be able to ensure that we can be able to support all the people that are in this country. Mr. President, the issue of climate change and natural disasters are continuously affecting us. We have seen the floods across the country and the fires at the beginning of this year. We are reconfiguring our work so that we can be able to respond within speed and time that you have requested us to do. But more importantly, ensure that families that are vulnerable and the most communities that are poor can be able to receive support from us as government. We will also rework in terms of our program to build climate change resilience in terms of infrastructure going forward, because it is very clear that with the climate change, we are not able to do. With that, Mr. President, you are a man at work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable M. Dlamini.
Sibonge Sihlalo. Greetings to the Commander-in-Chief and President of the Economic Freedom Fighters, President Julius Malema. Members of the Central Command Team, fighters and ground forces. We would like to take this opportunity to send our deepest condolences to the Ngema family in Mkondo Ward 3, who lost their 17-year-old daughter who was murdered during a service delivery protest. Yesterday, the overrated Deputy Minister of COGTA, Honorable Nkadimeng, stood here unashamedly and spoke about a white paper that speaks about local government that works together with other spheres of government while people are dying because of lack of service delivery. When she was reminded about her tenure in Polokwane as a mayor, she shouted that she's no longer there and those things are of the past. Now, the reality in Polokwane municipality under her, and even now, is nowhere near close to being an exemplary municipality. There is still water and drainage problems and a crisis in Polokwane.
Order, honorable members, please. Don't drown the speaker. Don't drown the speaker. Thank you.
As long as they get it, speak. Roads in the city and in townships are not taken care of. There are no functional streetlights and basic necessities. Yet someone was screaming here as if she was a paragon of local government. The district development model she screamed about has not given any results, and yet she pretends and wants to act as if she's the panacea to South African development and the lack of service delivery disasters. How on earth can anyone in their right mind claim successes of the local state when almost all of them are dysfunctional? These claims of ANC successes in municipalities started under the very overrated Siputla Ramakgopa, who the ANC tried to replace with Ms. Togo Didiza and lost elections dismally. There is not a single municipality that is run perfectly by the ANC in South Africa. It is unfortunate that the Deputy Minister comes here and speaks of a discredited 1998 white paper on local government by scientific and empirical research. The idea that you can revive local government through white paper and the so-called development model is foolish and misguided. The list of incorrect and misguided 1998 assumptions is that the white paper is long, but just to name a few. The white paper assumed that municipalities would be functional. Your president just told us that the number of dysfunctional municipalities has increased from 163 today and from the 123 before he took office in 2018. The Auditor General reports tell us this every day, every year. 2, it has assumed that municipalities will collect revenue. Municipalities do not have the administrative capacity to collect revenue, let alone keep basic records. The ANC capacity in a local government in the last 25 years, since the adoption of the white paper. Even if they collect revenue, our people still don't have money. More than 11 million people are unemployed. More than 28 million people are on social grants. Only 1.6 million taxpayers out of the 20 million who can work and pay taxes are excluded by the system. Who is going to pay for the municipal services and the property rates? The white paper assumed that with democracy, South Africa's spatial planning would change from race-based to more integrated. The opposite has happened. The ANC has perpetuated apartheid economy and racial spatial planning. Nice and clean cities are for whites. The informal settlements are for the black majority. A viable local government will need internal capacity through the insourcing of critical municipal services and the appointment of a competent and well-remunerated workers. Industrialization through building local economy and local procurement. Food security for all households, clinics to open 24 hours. We need municipalities with a clear town planning program. The reason why the ANC is being decisively defeated in all South African major metropolitan municipalities is because the ANC lacks the collective and individual capacity to deliver meaningful and impactful services to our communities.
Okay.
In 2026,
Your
The
time.
ANC will be wiped out in all municipalities
Your
because
time.
our people are saying enough is enough.
Time up. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable members, thank you. I now invite the Honorable Councillor B. Stofile.
Speaker, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, the Deputy President, the ministers and deputy ministers, the premiers, the members of this House, I must first say it will be important to put the facts correctly. Since the establishment of local government system in South Africa, on the 5th of December, 2022, the country was completing 22 years of local government wall-to-wall system. Coming from a local government system that it has been divided on the basis of class, race, and color, and the amalgamation of the municipal system, it created a municipal system that today we have 257 municipalities that do not look on the basis of the location and the color of individuals. And that is the fact. The 1998 white paper located functions of and responsibilities in local government, and it is a fact that 46% of the constitutionally declared functions are located in local government. It is therefore it is important that
Honorable Stofile, take your seat. Honorable Member Josie, what is your point of order?
Thank you, Speaker. I wanted to ask, the councillor is shaking. Don't you want to check if he's okay? Because the next thing he might collapse, it might be a really exigent matter.
That's not a point of
Ndiyamvela.
order. Okay.
Ndiyamvela, Speaker.
Kalapha.
Maybe he must speak sitting down.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Honorable
Councillor.
Member, that was not a point of order.
yeah,
Please, you may proceed, Honorable Councillor.
whereas local government has undergone rapid transition and transformation over the 22 years, there can be no doubt that it has had a profound impact on the lives of ordinary South Africans in expanding the provisions of service to our people. While it is true that a number of serious and complex challenges persist in some municipalities, but by and large, there are extensive examples, as confirmed by the municipal non-financial census, that local government has delivered quality services and a better life for the majority of our people. Madam Speaker, local government has, in the same breath, came under a lot of scrutiny recently, perhaps necessary, so as this is the most visible sphere, closest sphere of government to the people. Furthermore, our system of wall-to-wall municipal system means that all developmental work happens within a municipal ward in one way or another. Nearly all services of our people get or do not get from government find the most concrete expression at local government level. Despite its most pivotal role, it remains the stepchild, and therefore we appreciate the work that has been done by the President of the Republic in the recent past in allowing the cooperative governance to function, and that is why over the last couple of months we have been engaging the different ministers, including Minister of Small Businesses, insofar as how do we collaborate and cooperate in making sure that economic development does take place in local government. Secondly, we do appreciate that having 22 years of existence in local government, we have been shouting by lack of funding in the system. And I must appreciate and say, yeah, as SALGA leadership, we are that the national government allow us to enter into discussions, and hence we have an engagement with the Minister of Finance looking in the funding modalities that must assist local government. It's something that we must appreciate. Over the 20 years, various policies, legislators, and support program measures has been brought about. And the previous leaders of SALGA have asked, what next, having done this? And what it became crystal clear at the time, it was the support to local government, because the success of local government is the success of government as a whole. And thereby it requires us to entrench on the cooperative governance and build solid system of government to respond to challenges that our people are facing today. Turning to the current elephant in the room called coalition government, that we are none of us talking about in this room. We wish to spend some time in sharing our frustration as an association and thereby a problem in the country. Unlike previous elections, the 2021 local government elections gave rise to the most dramatic results as it relates to coalition government. These developments suggest that coalition government will clearly become a common feature of our political landscape in South Africa going forward. In 2021, it was only 3 parties that formed coalition government. But today, since 2020 today, the local government coalition government have risen from 27 to 87, led by more than 6 parties today. And that tells us that there is a crisis that we are going towards it. As South African local government, working together with the University of the Western Cape, we have developed a framework of coalition. It is common knowledge that if you go to a municipality today, you will find a mayor. In the next 2 hours, you'll find a different mayor. And therefore, it means the situation in local government, it becomes unstable. And it requires leadership and members of parliament to look at that. One of the issues where in many places, including the places where you are operating, anywhere, in many places in South Africa, President, in South Africa, if we don't deal with this animal called coalition, if we don't deal with animal called coalition, this animal called coalition, it robs the majority of our people. Majority of our people went and vote. When they vote, you political parties, you lock yourself in a room and cut the cake according to what is your interest. At the time, community is outside, locked outside there. When the service delivery is not rendered, the blame goes to municipality. And we are calling to government and calling to parliament to act on this, because it's a problem that is going to be with us for a very long time. And we suggest that there must be certain instruments that must be introduced. One of the instruments is as follows. I'll make an example, for instance, President, on various metros in the country. If I can take Nelson Mandela, for instance, if we can go as a country and accept to change the type of municipal system. Currently, the type of municipal system is 1 to 6, and 6 is metro. And in the metro, you are allowed to have an executive mayoral type. In a coalition arrangement, everyone demands to have a right to employ. And that is why you see the emergency and rise of employment cost in the municipality. Because it's a problem that we must all deal with, because leadership, political party locking themselves in a room discussing about who should be the leader of that municipality. One of the dispute is about what is it that I must benefit as a political party A. And that issue, it must be dealt with. And we are saying, for instance, in Nelson Mandela, President, we want to put it because you are members of parliament. We are contesting elections, all of you, from political parties. In Nelson Mandela, for instance, If you take a collective executive type municipality, in that municipality and any other municipality, what it means ANC is going to get 4 seats, DA is going to go 4 seats, EFF is going to get 1 seat, and the community organization in Port Elizabeth is going to get 1 seat. What it requires is for us to have a conversation amongst yourself as political parties to deal with the challenge that you are facing in local government. The second issue, President, is the killing of councillors and municipal officials. And the killing of councillors and municipal officials, it's a problem that it creates and it works against the intention of professionalizing of local government. There will be no professional that would want to go to the unsafe place. And therefore, it is important that the local government space to be created safe and be protected. In our endeavor to make sure that the local government does function. Otherwise, if we don't spend time in protecting those that have been accepting to render service and be threatened by criminals in the local space, will create a problem. The next point, President, that we wish in the State of the Nation address to be addressed is the protection of the revenue base of municipal system and the rising of the tax base of a municipal system. A municipal system, according to white paper, is not reviewed yet. The House that it had the power to review, but we are working from it. It says 90% of the income generation of a municipality will come from a municipal income. And that assumption, it was based on the belief that there will be growth of the economy and many other activities, and there will be people that will be paying. Currently, we are facing the same challenge that the community is not growing and therefore there's not be able to pay, and therefore it requires some other way of protecting the revenue base, including number of issues that individual organizations and they want to flood the local government with in eroding the income levels of a municipal system. In this sense, President, that is why to us as local government, we believe it is correct thing, learning from 2020 disaster situation in our country. What we have appreciated as local government in that period is the ability of the government in all spheres to work together, consolidate their energy, both human resources and financial resources, and intervene in communities. And it benefited to us because it speaks on the law that we have passed as this House called Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act. That compels the different spheres of government to work together towards achieving the same objective, that is service delivery to our communities. And that is why in ourselves, listening to debate as of yesterday, one question, an example was made of a community member somewhere in the Eastern Cape where the house was burned down through the electricity as it comes back. And can you sit wherever you are and imagine of a councillor sitting at home, that house is burned down because of electricity, and that councillor is not empowered. Whom to interact with when there is that disaster? Because the councillor is the closest person to our communities. And therefore, that is why as South African Local Government Association, we believe disaster declaration is the right thing and coordinate processes towards rendering service to our communities. The issues about how the money is used, I think it's a political thing that you can deal with. Our interest is that how do we service our communities as a government, not as different individuals and spheres, but how do we optimally intervene on the challenges that our communities are facing? And we believe that it can go a long way. There are mistakes that we have learned in the disaster in the past, and we can improve on those mistakes. Our people need service. They don't want politicking. They need service at whatever material time, whatever differences that we have. But it is important that our people to get service from the government and from the parliament that have elected. And that is why, in our view, we still believe that in the engagement between ourselves and the Minister of Finance to improve on allocation on the municipality, it's a right decision and it's a process that we need to follow going into the future. The last issue on this issue, President, is that we acknowledge and accept that we have established a crisis committee dealing with the energy and crisis. We would love as local government to participate there so that we can give a local content on that debate and discussion rather than being on the national level. It is our important role because our interest is that any decision taken at any level, it must go down into communities where we live and where we work. It is our interest that anything that it had to do with the life of our people, local government, it had to be taken on board and be engaged, and we really appreciate that. At least we have an engagement with various ministers in trying to pull them and help and infuse and give the will and energy on the intergovernmental relations framework, because that is the route to go. Cooperation of government, it had to come together and work together.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time is up. Honorable members, the next speaker on my list is the Honorable M. Hlengwa.
Madam Speaker, Honorable President, and honorable members, Mr. President, if I had 47 minutes, I would urge you not to appoint a Minister of Electricity, because you are duplicating political bureaucracy in a already bloated and excessive cabinet, where you've got a Minister of Minerals and Energy who deals with policy. The Minister of Public Enterprises continues to be the shareholder. At the same time, you have declared a state of disaster, which the Minister of COGTA comes in to actually deal with those matters. On top of that, you have got NECOM, which is dealing with this crisis in the presidency. And what is clear, Mr. President, is that every time your ministers don't perform, instead of firing them, you protect them by taking things into the presidency. Be decisive, Mr. President. Fire them. Don't have a nanny cabinet. I'll say you nanny. If they're not working, fire them. What has happened is that you have got a bloated mega presidency now. Operation Vulindlela, which ordinarily should be with the Department of Trade, Industry and or Treasury, is in the presidency. The Energy Action Plan and Energy Security Plan, which should be with Minerals and Energy, is with the president. The Presidential Youth Employment Stimulus, which should be with the NYDA or the Department of Youth and Women, is with the president. Infrastructure investment, which is supposed to be with Public Works and Infrastructure, is with the president. The Just Energy Transition Investment Program, which must be with one of these many departments, is with the president. The Presidential Climate Commission, which should be with the Department of Forestry, Fishery and Environment, is with the president. Red Tape Reduction Team and Red Tape Reduction Council, which must be with the Department of Small Business, is with the president. So, Mr. President, quite frankly, it seems to us you have got no confidence in your own ministers. Let me go to this, Mr. President. Let me start where you started, where you say our people are not defined by the minerals under the earth and the work that we do. Your apology over the weekend to President Mbeki notwithstanding, one must agree with you. It's a failure of government that our people don't have access to the opportunities that come with mining, the oceans economy, the minerals of this country, the land, and so on and so forth. We cannot be defined by what we do not own. And so the transition and the transformation which should have taken place, Mr. President, under your watch, under the ANC's watch, has certainly not happened. All of these things combined and all of these factors combined actually speak to failure. Mr. President, there's been a lot of song and dance about traditional leadership and about the wall-to-wall municipalities that we have in the country. Here too, I want to make a call to you, Mr. President. Respond positively to the Cabinet Committee decision of December 2000, which sought to amend chapters 7 and 12 of the Constitution to provide clarity on the powers, functions, and responsibilities of traditional leaders if there is to be any cohesion, effectiveness, and management space of development and governance spaces where there are traditional leaders and municipal councils. So, Mr. President, what comes out of this is that you are overstretching yourself and your ministers are sitting at home doing absolutely nothing. So as the reshuffle comes,
Thank you.
deal with your ministers.
Honorable Member.
Stop taking on responsibilities
Your
that
time.
ordinarily should be with
Your
ministers.
time-
I thank you.
Thank you very much. Time up, Honorable Member. Thank you. Honorable Member F.A. Masiko.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, Mrs. Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, His Excellency the President, President Ramaphosa, His Excellency the Deputy President, the two whips, Machipai, members of Parliament, fellow South Africans. We stand before this august house with a deep sense of appreciation and humility to debate the State of the Nation address on behalf of the People's Movement, the African National Congress. Our honor is derived from the fact that we are a year shy from the 30th anniversary of our democratic breakthrough. We, the formerly oppressed, still occupy this platform where the future of our country is debated and decided. As we progress towards the 30th years of democratic South Africa, we have progressed in our transformation agenda, and we greatly appreciate that. More importantly, we know for a fact that despite the many challenges we face as a country, our country is a far better place to live in, as the post-apartheid dispensation ushered a society premised on equality, justice, and shared humanity. It is unfortunate that our detractors without substance have yet again attempted to deny millions of South Africans in all corners of our country the opportunity to receive a detailed analysis and account on the journey our beloved country has traveled in the current conjuncture. The sonnet delivered by the President of our Republic was a true and frank reflection of our society in the current epoch. It gave a clear indication of what needs to happen for us to successfully navigate our stormy seas. Therefore, to suggest that the address by the President lacked detail is both disingenuous and a pure political theatrics driven by populism. Madam Speaker, it is indeed of the greatness of our glorious movement, the African National Congress, and all its virtues that our Parliament is independent and empowered to perform its oversight role effectively, with transparency and without hindrance. Honorable members, the oversight role of Parliament will make sure that we hold the executive to account. However, unlike our friends from the opposition, the performance of our work does not seek to overthrow a democratically elected government by underhanded means, but by one that seeks to advance the attainment of a national democratic society. It is such a shame that our country is becoming a laughing stock which undermines our standing amongst nations because of a minority of members of this Parliament who, having failed to win through the ballot, have sought to prohibit a democratically elected government from addressing this House. Madam Speaker, we are proud that not less than 21 bills are before this Parliament for consideration, which the opposition parties are opposed to because theirs is a rejectionist approach without substance to take our nation forward. These transformative bills before the sixth Parliament include the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, so as to recognize South African Sign Language as one of the official languages, the National Health Insurance Bill, which seeks to transform our country's health care for equitable access and distribution, the National Youth Development Agency Amendment Bill, which seeks to respond to the outcry from public regarding the poor visibility of the National Youth Development Agency, particularly in the rural areas, and optimize service delivery. The much-awaited National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Bill, which seeks to establish a multi-sectorial, independent, and non-partisan statutory body that will be tabled before the Portfolio Committee of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities. The Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill enhances our education system and accelerates addressing structural challenges in the sector. The Climate Bill, which seeks to enable adaptation and mitigation interventions to respond to transit to low-carbon economy. And the Expropriation Bill, which provides for the expropriation of property for a public purpose or a public interest. This legislation will enable the acceleration of land reform. This is to mention a few transformative legislation the ANC is advancing in Parliament to transform our society and to respond to challenges confronting the nation. We are a parliament at work. We appreciate that our people did not fight for democracy alone, but for material changes in their lives. Honorable Speaker, about a month ago, our country was plunged into darkness with the passing of one of the foremost activists for liberation and women emancipation, the first Speaker of this Parliament and the democratic era, Dr. Fanny Ginwala, a fearless fighter for women's rights and our liberator who was never far from the battlefront and had no fear to execute the struggle. It is as a result of the struggles of Dr. Ginwala, Mama Charlotte Maxeke, Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Helen Joseph, and Portia Ndwandwe that women like ourselves can not only dream, but are an integral part of building a new country out of the ruins of apartheid. I'm happy to report, Mr. President, that women across the country have heeded your call to action for all South Africans to work together to tackle the challenges we face, instead of wallowing in despair and lamenting our fate. Mr. President, 3 South African women have long answered your call, and they are representing our countries in platforms many of us in this House never heard of. Mrs. Ncumi Sandelu, the founder of One Family, One Stockpile, Ms. Melanie Bruma, the founder of Upcycled Clothing Collective, and Ms. Pamela Padayachi, the founder of Women Pact, are using Facebook to change some things that they don't like about the country they live in. They are the only 3 South Africans on the exclusive Facebook Community Accelerator Program, which is a global platform for Facebook community managers who are making a positive impact in their communities. All 3 of these women are recipients of a $40,000 grant from Facebook to continue the work they are already doing on their own, the benefit members. As we execute the current phase of the struggle, we will not be defocused by sideshows and theatrics. We will endeavor to remain true to the ideas of our founders of the struggle.
Thank you.
Lastly,
honorable members.
we know that we have a capable captain at the wheel in the form of President Ramaphosa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Ntate Mishwe.
Honorable Speaker, firstly, I want to thank you and honorable members for your prayers and kind words of condolences at the loss of my courageous, loving and dear wife of 46 years, Mrs. Lydia Mishwe, who passed away on the 25th of January this year. She left me with 3 amazing children and 3 wonderful grandchildren. Secondly, I want to thank you, Mr. President, most heartily for visiting my family at home, to convey your personal condolences and pay your last respects to a great woman who was your secretary when you were the chairman of the Students' Christian Movement at the University of the North in 1973. Mr. President, my children specifically asked me to convey their gratitude to you for the hour you spent with them and spoke to them like a caring father and not like a president. Thank you. As I have decided to dedicate my speech today to my precious wife, who is now with the Lord, I'm going to raise 2 issues she was unhappy about at the time of her homegoing. Besides high levels of crime in the country, particularly the rape of women and children that she was very upset about, she was concerned about the regular blackouts that are costing jobs, livelihoods, and loss of lives of patients who rely on constant electric-powered machines that supply them with oxygen. Mr. President, it is very unfortunate to know that the unreliable ESCOM of today used to be the #1 power utility in the world. While addressing leaders of political parties on the 15th of January 2023, the President told us that the challenges of ESCOM include criminality, corruption, lack of maintenance, lack of accountability, and lawlessness. The President further said that the journey of ESCOM started gloriously right at the beginning when it attracted some of the best skilled engineers. But because it was run as an apartheid entity, he said, when government embraced transformation, that led to a number of challenges. The President further said that they have sourced the expertise of an international company to address the culture of lawlessness at ESCOM. The ACDP does not agree with this decision, just as we do not agree with to an already bloated cabinet to deal with ESCOM challenges. We are convinced that ESCOM does not need another politician with the title of Minister of Electricity, but it needs a professional, skilled engineer who knows what the team that made ESCOM win the title of the best power utility company in the world did, regardless of their skin color. Speaker, our people are tired of these unending rolling blackouts that make their lives difficult. They want electricity now. They want government to stop putting their skin color before skill, competence, and efficiency. Demands for electricity in South Africa are increasing daily. Whilst there is increasing pressure to adopt non-fossil fuel electricity generating technologies, the abundant reserves and low-cost coal make it the preferred energy source to meet increasing electricity demand for the foreseeable future. The world's relative dependence on coal does not mean that the role of coal burning in global climate change will continue unchecked. A variety of options referred to as clean coal technologies are being researched and implemented throughout the world, with South Africa and ESCOM making significant contributions to this field. Clean coal technologies use coal for power generation in more environmentally acceptable and economically viable ways. They include processes that can be upheld before, during, and after utilization. And as I conclude with the second issue that concerned my wife, and also a number of ACDP people, is that there is now a talk of a new world order that the president we know supported when he addressed the rally on the 27th of April 2018 in the Free State. That is disappointing to us because we know what the implications thereof are going to be. I want to announce today that my family and I will, together with faithful members of the ACDP, never be part of this one world religion that will come with a new world order. That
ANC incurred debts. The residents of South Africa are voting with their feet, migrating in numbers to Democratic Alliance-led municipalities and to the DA-led Western Cape province. Yes, it takes time to turn around a big metro after years of ANC misrule, mismanagement, and misappropriation, especially with the underqualified and over-politicized cadres that are deployed in municipalities at all levels. Yes, coalitions are hard to manage, especially in minority governments. It plain to South Africans on numerous occasions that you disappointingly value your ANC presidency above that of South Africa. But how can you have allowed there to be 2 ANC mayors in the Northwest Province in Ditsobotla municipality for almost 2 years? How embarrassing and ridiculous to have a mayor from each of the 2 biggest factions within your organization, and your minister did nothing. And you, Mr. President, did nothing, not as the President of South Africa, nor as the President of the ANC. Mr. President, it's way past time for a decisive shuffle. The media is full of stories claiming that Minister Dlamini Zuma will remain in the failed COGTA portfolio in spite of her proven ineptitude. Perhaps she'll be ensuring that cigarette